Earlier you saw that one way to decrease the margin of error is to increase the sample size.
So we still have the question of how much should we increase the sample size? So remember, we have this formula that's given to us on the reference sheet for figuring out what the sample size should be. And this basically comes from the formula for the margin of error. So the margin of error is the critical value t star times the standard error formula. And if you rearrange that to get n by itself, it would end up looking like this. But of course we can't really use t star for this because remember, you have to know your degrees of freedom to get t star. So you have to know what your sample size is. So the good news is that when you have large sample sizes, t star and z star are going to be very similar to each other. So we're just going to kind of use that. That's really the best that we can do in this situation. Another problem is that we don't actually know the standard deviation because this would be done before the study is conducted. So you would need some kind of prior value. So in this case, we're sort of going to use that previous number, that 300 from the previous study, as like a pilot study. So this will give us some idea of the standard deviation, and it allows us to estimate from that. Okay, so we're using this formula, n equals z star times the standard deviation over the margin of error squared. Okay, so it tells us that we want 95% confidence. So that's what's going to determine what our z star value is. So I'm going to go back to that jump calculator. This is z star, so I'm choosing a normal distribution, leaving my probability the same because it's 95% confidence, and that gives me my z star value of 1.96. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in. And then I'm going to multiply that by the standard deviation from the previous study. So let's see, $1,329.60. That's my standard deviation. And then my margin of error, it tells me that we want to estimate to within a $300 margin of error. So that's what I'm going to plug in here. Okay, take all of that and square it, and you end up with 75.4591. Our rule when we're calculating sample sizes is that we always round up. So to get the margin of error that we want here, we need a sample size of n equals 76.